Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today we're going to be talking about shuffles. So just standard shuffles that you'd expect to see in a poker game, in just standard Magic, and all that kind of everyday use. So it's just going to be standard shuffles we're going to run through. We're going to give you a whole bunch of different variations. We're going to run in depth and kind of break that down and see what that looks like. So let's do it, guys.
Cool, so the first shuffle we're going to look into is the overhand shuffle. The overhand shuffle is poorly used nowadays and is arguably one of the most powerful resources to any card magician that exists to this day. I would highly recommend that you look further into the text when it comes to overhand shuffles. There is a plethora of information on it available out there. And a bunch of great online educational videos as well. We've got links to some of those in the description. For right now, let's jump into some of the basics. With the overhand shuffle, you're going to want to hold the deck in your right hand. You're going to have your index finger along the top long side of the deck and your second and third finger along the shorter top end. Your pinky will rest along the base of your third finger. It's not necessarily touching the cards. In some variations of the overhand shuffle, your pinky is used. So keep it handy, but we're not going to touch on those today. Today is just the basics of the overhand shuffle. To start the shuffle, you're going to throw the cards towards your left hand, with your left hand held in the same position it would be if it was in dealer's grip. You're going to utilize your thumb to pull cards from the face of the deck, or the back of the deck, sorry. And you can pull these off in many fashions, but the two most common, of course, are singular, so single cards at a time, or in bunches of cards. Ultimately, you get the whole way through the deck, you tap clean, you group again, and you repeat this process when needed. Some tips to start out with. The overhand shuffle is renowned for being difficult to learn initially. The key to learning it is practice. There is nothing that is going to be more effective to you than continuously practicing this. When you first start, you may find you drop cards, they get thrown around, some of them will reverse by accident as you throw the cards into your left hand. The key is practice. The more time and effort you put into this, the more consistent you'll be, and the less cards will automatically reverse on you or go flying out of the deck when you're doing it. Let's take a look at our next shuffle.
Cool guys, so the next shuffle we're going to learn is a riffle shuffle. These are it's the most common shuffle you'll see anyone do. It is exactly as seen, like so. So let's get into it, let's see how it's done. First thing, you want to be holding the deck in your right hand. Now, 3 fingers just along the edge of the cards like that, and your first finger is going to be using to spring, to get that spring in there. And then your thumb will riffle off cards into your left hand, just into a little packet, just like so, and use your right hand fingers to bring that up to the thumb. And now you have 2 equal packets of cards. From here, you use your first fingers to spring in, and you're going to let the cards just kind of riffle down onto the table, slowly pulling your thumb back from the packet, like so. Bringing them up, putting pressure on, and letting them spring back into the hands. Cool guys, so some tips with this one here is getting the spring in the cards. So when you're getting to this bit here, you've got them all there. This sometimes can be one of the hardest bits. So picking that whole thing up like so and really buckling that in and letting the cards spring back while holding the thumbs in place to stop them from springing everywhere. That's going to be the biggest key to this one. So practice, and you'll get there in time.
Alright, so let's jump into the in the hands variation of the riffle shuffle. The in the hands variation of the riffle shuffle is just as good as the tabled version. You may find that it's easier to use when you're out and you don't have a surface to do a tabled riffle shuffle on. Exactly the same up until the moment that you riffle the cards together. So the separation is going to be identical. At this point, you're going to straddle the cards with your pinky and your index finger of either hand. This grip will take a little bit of practice, but it's certainly not the hardest thing to learn. And you're going to grip quite firmly between these two. You're going to put your second and third fingers of both hands on the base, short end of the deck, and your thumbs are going to reach towards the upper edges of the inner short edge of the deck. You're then going to curl, once this is re-gripped into this position. So you're going to leave your index fingers on the side until they're weaved, like so. At this point you curl in, just as you would on the table, maintaining the pressure from your back two fingers on the outer short edge of the decks. You release the pressure slowly, allowing the cards to riffle together. You may find that when you start, this process is actually easier to learn with fewer cards. That final component of riffling the cards together will take a little bit of practice and it'll take a little bit of time. But the fewer cards you have in your hand, the less likely they are to go everywhere. That pressure becomes something that you acclimatise to with time. So don't be too scared to start with a fewer pack of cards just to get the ball rolling. Once you've gotten accustomed to that, jump back to using a full deck. This is one of the few moves in card magic that you can pick up in a couple of days and be pretty proficient within a short period of time. Again, like all shuffle techniques, practice is king. Let's jump into the next one. Right, the last shuffle for this video is going to be one of my favourites. It can be found in the Holy Grail of Card Magic, The Expert Card Table by S.W. Erdnase, originally published in 1902, has some of the greatest shuffle and card control technique you can find to this day. Within that book, there is a particular tabled riffle shuffle that nowadays we consider fairly standard. This technique is incredibly diverse, and if you're a fan of tabled card magic like I am, this particular shuffle is second to none. It is the basis for the vast majority of false controls with tabled shuffles and is an incredibly powerful tool. Starting with this will be incredibly powerful in the long run to your card technique. So let's take a closer look and jump into it. Much like all shuffles, this shuffle is going to start with the separation of half of the pack. You can either undercut to the right or to the left, or vice versa. Doesn't really matter until you start controlling cards. The general principle of this technique is obviously to be a legitimate shuffle, as we're teaching in this video. So either from the top or from the bottom, doesn't particularly matter in this case. You're going to control the cards with your second and third fingers towards the outer edges of the deck, your pinky leading on the upper corner of the outer edges of the short sides of the deck, and your thumb towards the center of both packs at the rear long side. Your index fingers are going to be touching the top back of the card relatively loosely. It's there for a little bit of pressure when you lift your thumb so that you can get a nice even weave. Simply, at this point, all you do is lift your thumb and try and weave the cards together. You'll find that that weave is inconsistent. The best magicians in the world can't get this one for one. There is a technique that allows you to get close to that. We'll touch on that in a later video. That's particularly difficult. But in this one, that weave is never going to be perfect. Don't stress about that. The better you practice this, the closer that weave will come to being perfect, but it never needs to be perfect. Once you've done this, you use your pinky to push the cards back together into a nice orderly state. This process can obviously be repeated multiple times. And that, my friends, is the tabled riffle shuffle. Enjoy.
Thanks guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video that we made. It's obviously super basic right now just to create those foundations, but again, hope you enjoyed. Drop a comment, like, subscribe, whatever you're into, and we'll see you next time.